Red, red wine goes to my head, makes me forget that I still need her so. Red, red wine, it's up to you. All I can do, I tell. Memories won't go. Memories won't go. I swore that with time, thoughts of you would leave my head. I was wrong. Now I find just one thing makes me forget. Red, red wine, stay close to me. Don't let me be alone. It's tearing apart my blue heart. I swore that with time, thoughts of you would leave my head. I was wrong. Now I find just one thing makes me forget. Red, red wine, stay close to me. Don't let me be alone. It's tearing apart my blue heart.
Red, red wine, you make me feel so fine. You keep me rocking all of the time. Red, red wine, you make me feel so grand. I feel $1 million when you're just in my hand. Red, red wine, you make me feel so sad. Anytime I see you go, it make me feel bad. Red, red wine, you make me feel so fine. Monkey packing wisdom on the sweet red wine. Red, red wine, you give me Wally Pazing, Wally Pazing.
Hello, Transit fanners, and welcome to the review of the Flatbush Depot review, which is a remake of my last review from June 2018 about this depot. This depot is located at 4901 Philmary Avenue in Flatbush, Brooklyn, near the Kings Plaza shopping center where a number of bus routes terminate. The depot occupies 2 blocks just off Flatbush Avenue, bounded by Philmary Avenue, East 49th Street, Avenue N, and Utica Avenue. The Brooklyn Heights Railroad, part of the Brooklyn Rapid Transit Company, opened the depot in mid-1902 along its Flatbush Avenue line, which was later the Bergen Beach Shuttle on Avenue N. It eventually served a number of lines from the Flatbush area, including the Bergen Beach Shuttle, Flatbush Avenue line, Nostrand Avenue line, Ocean Avenue line, and Utica Avenue line. The barn began serving buses in 1931 and was acquired by the city in 1940. The depot was reconstructed under municipal operations in the late 1940s, designed by this architect D.R. Collin of the BRT, and was intended to be the first of a new system-wide design. Few of the former BRT and BMT depots were rebuilt to match such designs. Only Ulmer Park Depot somewhat matches this new architectural design. The new Flatbush Depot opened for bus service on January 15, 1950, along with Ulmer Park Depot. An adjacent parking lot was added in 1965. Then the depot was rehabilitated in 1991. In 2009, the depot became the first to dispatch buses equipped with plexiglass partitions to protect drivers from statistic assaults after December 1st, 2008, featuring the murder of Edwin Thomas. a bus driver who was operating a bus on the B46 Limited route when this incident occurred. For instance, there was Edwin Thomas driving a 1998 RTS numbered 9666 on the B46 Limited on his way to the Williamsburg terminal northbound. He was known as Flatbush Depot's most famous operator to giving his consistent generosity of bus transfers, especially for passengers who gets on the buses fare free. Until December 1st, 11 years ago, there was a 22-year-old homicide offender, Horace Moore, who was reasonably refused a transfer, which is maybe because Thomas had received a warning for his generosity to the fare beaters. Suddenly, Moore stabbed Thomas repeatedly and then was apprehended to be sentenced 25 years of imprisonment since then. Overall, this all influenced not only the driver's seat partitions on these buses citywide, but Flatbush had to trade with Michael J. Quill Depot for their RTSs to increase safety measures with mainly security cameras on these Brooklyn routes of Flatbush Depot. Moving on to the routes it features local routes of B2, B31, B41, B44, B46, B49, and a brand new route this year, the B99, which only runs overnight from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Then it features the articulated bus routes and also as select bus services, the B44 and B46 select bus service. Then moving on to the bus fleet this depot features. First, they have the 2009 to 2010 Daimler Chrysler Orion VII Next Generation Hybrids, the 2015 New Flyer Xcelsior XD40s, 2018 New Flyer Xcelsior XD40s with most of them in select bus service wraps. Then there's the 2016 and 2018 Novabus LFS Smart Buses as select bus service units. Then finally, they also have 2017 and 2019 New Flyer XD60s as select bus service units. Then let's move on to my story time about this depot.
I know this little girl, her name is Maxine. Her beauty's like a bunch of roses. If I ever tell you about Maxine, you older say I don't know what I know, but murder she wrote. Real. Murder she wrote.
Flatbush Depot was the most common depot to be an RTS pedo since the early 80s when they first had small sets of 1981 GMC RTSs. Before that, they were in loads with GMC old looks as the TDH 5106s, plus the GMC new looks as TDH 5301s, and the flexible new looks as well, known as the Fishbowl Bus series. But the operators at Flatbush Depot loved the GMC TDH 53 series the most because they were catalysts of their depots, featuring an easy management with steering the bus with one finger on a classic steering wheel. Going back to their RTS era, this depot hustles their crowds with RTSs in majority of Brooklyn neighborhoods, mostly on southern neighborhoods as well, like Manhattan Beach. It was consistent this way even through 2007 when I immigrated here from Haiti. Since I landed in the USA, I see RTSs in all of Flatbush's routes and mainly on the B46. I recall riding only TMC and Novabus RTSs on those routes. After I rode another sets of these models out of East New York Depot on the B17, back in 2007, I recall at least twice I rode the 1990 and 1991 TMC RTS units twice on the B46 when on my way to Kings Plaza with my parents. I had a clue with mainly the rear pork chop windows on those buses. Moving forward, since my parents and I moved to East Flatbush from Canarsie in May 2009, I get to ride the B46 more often through early 2010s. In Labor Day weekend of that year, there was an exclusive that Flatbush Depot slapped me in the face so hard. There it is, the Orion VII Next Generation Hybrid I found on the B46 when I was riding a black Honda CR-V going across Utica Avenue via Church Avenue. That bus shows me that I could think of it as the bus of the future, and it immediately beats my taste of the RTSs. Yet until June 2010, I finally rode my first next gen on the B41, and I found out that it became the first bus I see in MTA history to have advanced announcements with yellow cords on the window borders. It was my father and I riding this bus along Flatbush Avenue for our shopping spree. That became my best ride I get to enjoy on my new favorite bus. Moving into 2011, I had my godsister or with a friend and myself, which we mostly rode the B46 either to Kings Plaza or going northbound up to the A and C line on Fulton Street. Whenever I go with her, it's always an RTS we catch. Then going into the summertime of that year, I found my first favorite RTS of the 1997 and 98 series as 9614. I rode that unit with my dad on our way to Kings Plaza. And when the operator takes off at Avenue D and Utica Avenue, the rear axles roar with the engine running, defying a good hustle of the bus. Even 9612 makes a tough whirl of hustle through its engine too. Moving into January 2013, Flatbush Depot became the first depot in Brooklyn to have articulated buses. They first ran the 2012 Novabus LFSA number 5840 on the B44. Flatbush was receiving those LFSAs in order to prepare for the incoming select bus service being implemented for this route. By September 2013, I finally rode an LFSA number 5326, which was really intriguing. That became my first LFSA I rode, and also my very first time riding an articulated bus in New York City. Riding this bus reminds me riding a 2009 LFSA in Montreal under the agency of Société Transport de Montréal, known as STM. Then by November 17th, 2013, the B44 Select Bus Service became effective, and those LFSAs have been SBS wrapped for this service since at least a month before. Going into February 2014, it was during my midwinter break I had found another favorite RTS. It was my father and I riding 5030 along Flatbush Avenue. That bus was almost as how 9614 sounded, with tough hustle connected with the snow chain tires in the rear, making a musical rumble in the interior. Moving into March 2015, Flatbush ended up receiving the new Xcelsiors, which were the 2015 new Flat XD40s. It started with the first two units, and one of them was 7304. But before that, there was 7255 to 7256 were loaned to Flatbush Depot to train operators to grab Xcelsiors for revenue service before they get their own buses. I didn't ride Flatbush's XD40s yet until 2016. Plus, they were receiving these buses to replace the remaining 1996 Novabus RTSs, along with the premature retiring 1997-1998 they had. While they were receiving their newbies, the Department of Transportation formed a community meeting to implementing a B46 select bus service by 2016. Therefore, between the summer of 2014 and the fall of 2015, they were proposed to adding bus lanes, turn bays, loading zones, and signal priorities along Utica Avenue. Along spring of 2016, they made bus stop adjustments, bus time signs, fare machines, new shelters with benches. On June 2016, it was since a month before that those 2015 XD40s were given select bus wraps to represent their uniforms for select bus service. Then on July 3rd of that year, the B46 select bus service became effective, which means that I have this special route nearest to my home in East Flatbush. By August 2nd, my mother and I got off the A train coming from the Port Authority bus terminal, and we finally caught my first XD40 and select bus service. Riding the select bus service XD40 became the fastest and amusing ride I was entitled for. Along with admiring these XD40s and select bus wraps, as my favorite XD40s. In fact, 7304 to 7351 were wrapped for the B46 Select. By 2017, my frequent rides for the B46 and B46 Select was a huge comeback. It started in August 2017 when I went into my freshman year of high school at Uncommon Charter High School. I increasingly became entitled to riding the B46 Select because of its fast service. But I was scared of its crowding and the traffic congestions it serves after 6:50 in the morning. As for the B46 Local, a new situation I learned is that some of its buses can only terminate at Eastern Parkway starting after 6:50 in the morning. It became a bit challenging to catch buses that can terminate at Williamsburg. And those B46 buses that terminate at Williamsburg Plaza are those I usually catch because I can get off at Bergen Street to transfer for the B15 or the B65. Plus, I can get off at Atlantic Avenue to walk Western or get off at Fulton Street to either catch the C train or catch the B25. Those are my 3 optional convenient transfers to get to my school on Kingston Avenue. By 2018, Flatbush had been required to get their newer exclusives of the 2018 XD40s and select bus wraps. Until May 2018, a week after my birthday, the first 4 units like 7619 were delivered and had hit the B46 select bus route by June 29th. They were the first Flatbush's first new XD40s seen with second generation announcements, especially the Via Nova screens in the interior. Including my most obsessive parts of these buses are the pedestrian turn warning alerts. These were delivered to replace their older brothers and sisters, the 2015 XD40s off SBS service, and to keep the small remaining ones that were not wrapped. And also, they sent majority of those units to Homer Park and East New York Depot. By June 8th of that year, I finally rode my first 2018 XD40, number 7623, on my way to getting off at Eastern Parkway. It was the best moment I enjoyed riding this compared to the 2015 units I like at first. Until August of that year, Flatbush Depot was blasted for illegally parking to beat the NYPD rule. Though they have the adjacent parking lot across from the back of the depot, these employees parked all over the blocks surrounding the depot without paying the ticket meters. Therefore, they included MTA vests or other MTA accessories to mark why they couldn't pay for the tickets, and to show that they had to rush for their bus services to make. And another sad thing for Flatbush Depot is that they were aware that 2018 was the first year of retiring their last series of RTSs. By 2019, Flatbush had to go through months of preparation of receiving new 60-foot buses and to convert the B46 Select bus service to have articulated buses. Since late 2018, they were getting their bus stops remodified and their bus lanes resurfaced. In supplementation, Flatbush ended up receiving 4 2017 XD60s from Michael J. Quill Depot to train operators on the B44 Select bus service in order to operate the newer 2019 XD60s about to be delivered to them. Until February 8th, I caught 6117 making its service up to Williamsburg Plaza. That's the same day I finally rode the B44 route since 2013. I rode 5348 from Fulton Street along Nostrand Avenue to go search for that XD60 unit. Until a month after that year, I rode 5346 on my way up to Williamsburg Plaza. That became my first time touching my arrival at Williamsburg Plaza. Then I rode the next units like 5340 3 months later. On the other hand, Flatbush had a crisis conclusion from the DOT and TWU Local 100. Brooklyn residents protested these 2 service developments of the MTA to restore the B41 due to its high ridership loss and high traffic weight. Especially like what happens on the B46, there are dollar vans and cabs that steal transit revenues as well. They want to restore this route in order to put in place bus-only lanes with a physical barrier keeping other traffic out of B41's path, painted bus-only lanes with enhanced enforcement, and bus priority signal technology to reduce wait times at red lights. And the easy known fact, it's easily known as the longest route of Flatbush Depot. Besides that, after this conclusion was made, Flatbush finally received the 2019 XD60s to the B44 route. Then I ended up riding 6137 as my first 2019 XD60 ride on that route coming from the Williamsburg Plaza. In fact, Flatbush were receiving these XD60s in order to displace their 2012 and 2013 LFSAs. Those LFSAs were getting unwrapped and sent to MAP STOA, mainly in the Bronx. Through April of 2019, Flatbush had to consistently make unexpected art retirements with their RTSs because of the Brownsville residents complaining for these aging RTSs living longer in some depots of New York City. Going forward, 4950 was maybe the first of Flatbush's 1998 and 1999 series RTS to retire for scrap. Then as days goes by, their RTSs were being taken out of service by 4% gradually. Until April 30th, 5171 was the very last RTS out of Flatbush and Brooklyn wide to run the service for us. That was the day before the MTA forced every single last RTS out of service on May 1st. In my point of view, 5142 was my very last RTS I rode in Brooklyn, and also my last RTS I recorded for my channel. Rewriting back while the RTS retirement was continuing, Flatbush had a big surprise that Michael J. Quill should have ran with at first. Flatbush was the only depot with a demo bus, as the 2019 XE60 in its new flyer demonstration uniform. That bus was not up to MTA specifications because it has to be tested if New York City was ready to accommodate articulated electric buses. It only ran along the B44 route without passenger service. It ran in Brooklyn for a rare catch for 10 days until it was sent to Michael J. Quill for one test. Additionally, because of our newest MTA specified XE60s we have today since September, this tells us that the demo XE60 that was here has passed the test. By late spring of that year, because of the planned B46 Select conversion, they had two 2018 XD40s unwrapped. Flatbush had first 7650 unwrapped off as Select bus service duty. Since it was unwrapped but not seen because of a mechanical failure, made it be sent to the JFK bus vendor in Jamaica, Queens. Until August, it finally came back to service as expected after 3 months, and while 7650 was missing, in July, 7649 was the second to be unwrapped. After it was unwrapped, it went back on the B46 Select bus service for a moment with Select bus configurations on. By September last year, while more Select bus service XD40s were being unwrapped, Flatbush finally received the newer LFSA smart buses of 2016 and 2018 from Michael J. Quill Depot to supplement for Flatbush's shortage after a couple of months of slow deliveries with the 2019 XD60s. Since that happened, I saw some of these back and forth on the B44 Select. Then I captured 5440 on the B44 Select to Williamsburg Plaza at the intersection of my BF's house. Because of this transfer and delivery status, the B46 Select conversion was held until late 2019. Until December 30th, some XD60s started service on the B46 Select. 6133 was the first to run, then there was 6145 behind it. Also, 5500 was the first LFSA to run the B46 Select as well. This was considered as a testing service until January 5th. It starts a winter pick for this 60-foot service. But 2 days before, we had 5342 that was supposed to be unwrapped before it goes to Kingsbridge Depot. But it went back to Flatbush and makes a rare occurrence to run the B46 Select for one time. This made it the first time we had a 2012 LFSA run the B46 route in this new decade. Later on in January 19th, the B46 Select became a full-time 60-foot bus route.
Since then, I rode at least 2 LFSAs, and I rode 6175 as my first 2019 XD60 on this route in February. Riding the articulated bus on the B46 since 3 weeks before is more attractive, where I no longer need a dollar cab or a dollar bus. No longer much of a crazy overcrowding from day and night. Until the week before the coronavirus lockdown, the B46 Select bus service became my last Flatbush route I rode on, and also my very last bus route in citywide I rode during the pre-COVID times on March 13th. Now let's move on to the analytics.
Yo, Tip, talk to them blood clots.
I'm a real nigga, homie, 12 six figures on me. Got a pistol, you don't want it, but you know what it is. I'm way flyer, my pay's way higher. If they ever mention sire, well, you know what it is.
When I look up to Flatbush Depot, I always see their history through the logo it has. Their depot logo shows me that they have a history to be MTA's king of RTSs. Due to their strict RTS fleet they run with since the 80s, since early 2010s, when I ride the B46, I am assuming that Kings Plaza is the best terminal for this bus route, where it has at least 2 lanes to run on. And before these buses enter the mall, I like their acts of leaning in the middle of the expressway of Flatbush Avenue before they enter into the terminal of the mall. But before arriving to this terminal, my other favorite part of it was passing by the Flatbush Depot. Looking at this depot while riding this bus always made me have the spirit to visit the depot. I still do that through today, and by May of 2018, it became my first time I visited the depot. Anyways, the B46 route, especially the SBS version of it, is the highest ranked bus route to go with. But one problem I had with it was when it yet didn't have articulated buses. For years of overcrowding, the MTA didn't have to focus on the B44 because of its corridor. It has to look up to the B41 and the B46 for their high overcrowding status compared to the B44. Though the B41 wasn't ready for articulated buses, the B46 is my main focus on that because both SBS and Local had to reduce crowding. Even before Flatbush was given the XD40s, while the B44 was given the LFSAs, Flatbush can also have D60 HEVs too. Especially when the MTA was ordering the 2002 to 04 D60 series, they would have gotten more units as 5770 to 5834. But the New Flyer Industries were defined with the MTA, and this agency no longer has to focus with New Flyer Industries until 2011. Plus, no articulated buses were ordered until 2009. Those were the 2005 models being ordered from Manhattan and for the Casey Stengel Depot in Queens, but Flatbush should have received these. And in fact, the D60 HEVs should have touched Brooklyn service too. I would wish to see the D60s and LFSA run the B46 service. But in 2017, I caught 2 LFSAs that were not in service running through Crown Heights along Utica Avenue. And if they were running through Utica Avenue, it would have been a test instead of a shortcut to the north. Because when there are no articulated buses for the B46, the crowding makes me more scared to ride this route. But on the other hand, dollar cabs or dollar buses save my life from these whenever I am running late for work, for school, or even if I'm early. When it comes to crowding, this is how I saw one incident on May 14th of 2019. That was the day before my 16th birthday. I was riding 7655, and when we reached Eastern Parkway, 3 women huddled to fighting because one of the females had been hit for not telling another passenger to excuse. It was a scary moment to see, but I sucked it up and still ride the bus until I reached my destination. Besides the B46, the B41 is more challenging. This is the longest and busiest route Flatbush Depot had to deal with, which is why the TWU Local was protested to upgrade this route for beneficial priorities, and the driver had high gratitudes for that. I am so lucky I am not near that route, but if I was, I would have never want to go north or south with this bus. In regards to that, when the MTA made this route, for many schools around this route, there are mainly school kids who cause the most trouble. Those are as to fighting, attacking bus drivers, vandalisms, littering, etc.
This is why this route is my least favorite route to focus on out of this depot. But one rare moment this route has was 6143 as in XD60 running this route on January 7th, beating the MTA rule of B41's readiness. What I forgot to mention is that back in August of 2016, it became my first time I rode the B49 and with the Orion VII Next Generation Hybrid. It was my mother and I were on our way to Kingsborough Community College in Manhattan Beach, and this route is a long wait to get off of, and with the operator at his early times of service. And so many turns this bus has to deal with when going south. Then hours after into the night, we took the RTS going northbound on that same route to reach Kings Highway. With the B49 along Ocean Parkway, seems kind of a run-free route. And going back to the B44 route, riding mainly the select bus service on this route is the LFSAs I had a big nitpick on. It was the engine combination that becomes a worry with due to the noise and the rumble I hate in the rear. This is why Brooklyn drivers criticize these LFS series to not be a proper fit for Brooklyn due to the interior spacing and also high mileage curve gaps. Therefore, their first LFSAs had to be displaced, and all of a sudden they now have the chromified livery LFSAs. With both the XD60s and the newer LFSAs, Flatbush became the third depot to have these buses installed with automated bus lane enforcement cameras, known as the ABLE cameras in the front. This only happens for the B44 and B46 routes to help themselves clear the bus lanes during rush hour. The 2019 XD60s are more useful with those cameras, just like with the rest of their sisters in Manhattan. Moving forward, through 84 days when we had the COVID season, I had to assume that while I was sleeping over in Canarsie, I wondered if the B46 SBS would go back to using the 40-foot buses for 3 months partially. But still, they are using the same bus like before then. Until after the pandemic is lifted, ridership goes back up. And by July 8th, it became since 4 months I finally got to ride the B46 Select Bus service with 6138. And I was on my way to Marine Park, revisiting the Kings Plaza Terminal, and also Flatbush Depot. Looking at Flatbush Depot with more articulated buses makes me wonder, is Flatbush Depot becoming Brooklyn's next Michael J. Quill Depot? But Grand Avenue is the second Michael J. Quill of Brooklyn before Flatbush Depot. And as of June 28th, MTA built a new route, which is the B99 route. This route runs between Columbus Circle in Manhattan and Midwood in Brooklyn. It can only run overnight between 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. every 20 minutes per night. The reviews being made on this brand new route makes me think the B99 can be a route to fall asleep on the ride if I had to go from Manhattan to Brooklyn. Also, we could imagine what it's like to run an RTS on this route. But as of today, I prefer riding an XD40 on this route because of its quietness. And I can also like to hear the aerodynamic breeze from the inside or the outside along with the Cummins engine run. So overall, this depot gets a rate of a 9.1 out of 10. So though that majority of its route are really tough to deal with, but therefore Flatbush does all the excellent best it can to run through the routes as efficient, as more convenient as they could. So ending this review, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and also have a great summer. And for the Flatbush Depot riders, help us give more history as well.
Standing line, oh, you tell me say they go she dey do me up back control. See the way you dey roll it up back control. See my baby want to take control. Sexy, para ballet. So you want take charge, okay? Girl, I no mind. Go do your thing, girl, I'll be quiet. Yeah, I no lie. Baby, when I say it's your time, you say make her hold tight. Now she says she want give me that. Give me African waist like Tiwa. She want give me that work like Rihanna. Yeah, Cherry Bush, she rotate TD like a tire. Yeah, she dey make man stand ovation. Abaka don't cause inflation for the nation. You say you want me love to the baseline, oh. You tell me say you don't want waste time, oh. You say them other girls have to stand in line, oh. You tell me say they go watch how we slow wine, oh. Oh, you say you want take control. Yeah, you say you want take control. The way she dey do me up back control. See the way you dey roll it up back control. See my baby want to take control now. Chale, she know she the baddest. 10 over 10, she know it. I don't know how she dey manage the African thing, she dey roll it. Fine face like Genevieve. Anything you want, I go be. I be right here, I don't leave. All my love, girl, me, she give me African waist like Tiwa. She want give me that work like Rihanna. Yeah, Cherry Bush, she rotate TD like a tire. Yeah, she dey make man stand ovation. Abaka don't cause inflation for the nation. You say you want me love to the baseline. You tell me say you don't want waste time. You say them other girls have to stand in line. You tell me say they go watch how we slow wine. Oh, you say you want take control. Yeah, you say you want take control. The way she dey do me up back control. See the way you dey roll it up back control. See my baby want to take control now. Hey, shake it. Hey, all my African girls give me wine no. Shake it. Hey, all my London girls give me wine no. Shake it. My Caribbean girls give me wine no. Shake it. All my girls I don't want give me wine no.
Yes, Naya. Cool na aya. Who am I? It's just the girl, them sugar. Alright. Here I know. Oh, na 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 na. Oh, na 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 na. Hey! Sim-Simma. Who got the keys to my bimmer? Who am I? The girls, them sugar. How can I make love to a fella in a rush? Pass me the keys to my trucks. Who am I? The girls, them lock. And I, we make love to precious. But you ever buck a girl with deep like a bucket. Draw for your niggle like your niggle can't stitch it. Draw for your oxen like a cow, you wanna chop it. Draw for your pickaxe like a gun, you wanna dig it. It's like a riverside up on the bank and you take it. It's like a bicycle so you hold it and dash it. So you watch it, so you crash it. She a tell you say you grab it. Girl, she a beg you wanna ball, take it, stop it. Batman plug in and me a move like a electric. It's like a basketball, she take time out to bomb it. Well, listen to me silent, well, listen to me lyrics. I be the man, they and me a drop it. I said, Sim-Simma, who got the keys to my bimmer? Who am I? The girls, them sugar. How can I make love to a fella in a rush? Pass me the keys to my trucks. Who am I? The girls, them lock. And I we make love to pressure. Anything she want, I will give it unto she. I can't believe today my friend them tell me that she flee. I don't believe he's angry and I don't believe he's grief. I don't believe it's Susan or the other girls I read. Love for me, she have, that is the only thing I need. I don't intend right now just to lose my main squeeze. Oh, Guantanamela, you a killer. Galero, you a tea on me body under pressure. Man, see your body all a kill mosquito. When your body right, just to know you got the power. But Sim-Simma, who got the keys to my bimmer? Who am I? The girls, them sugar. How can I make love to a fella in a rush? Pass me the keys to my trucks. Who am I? The girls, them lock. And I will make love to precious cup. I tell myself I don't want nobody else to ever love me. You are my guiding star, my when you're gone, I know that girls, they going crazy. I know the girls love some, all of them are come, cause the one of them want this, baby. I told you once and I told you twice that I am the girls, them sugar. Now the girls them attack me and the girls them rush me because them are driving the Beamer. And the girls them flavor, I'm no slaver. I am the helper, no helper. And a girl loves watcher, I want to hear her. And listen when the DJ say, Sim Simma, pass me the keys to my Beamer. Oh my, the girls them sugar. How can I make love to a fella in a rush? Pass me the keys to my trucks. Oh my, the girls them lock. And I, we make love to precious Sim Simma. Who got the keys to my Beamer? Oh my, the girls them sugar. Jeez.
Lo siento, mamacita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Tú eres bonita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Yo te quiero pa' mí. Yo te quiero pa' mí. Cuando la vi en el medio del baile, bailando pa' mí, en el medio del baile. Que conocer, tú eres con la que yo me puedo ver. Su cuerpo a mí me llama, tú eres lo que me falta, tú eres la que necesito esta noche en mi cama. Lo siento, mamacita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Tú eres bonita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí.
Sé que tú sabes de mí, tienes todo lo que a mí me mata, baby. Te mata decir que te quiero pa' mí. En el jet por el ley, Santa Ana en la suite. Vámonos los dos en un viaje. Allá compramos todo, no te me lleves el equipaje. Quiero que por la noche te me ponga ese traje, pero sin nada debajo pa' que el nene no trabaje. Haciéndolo como a ti te gusta, un poco de diamante pa' que conmigo tú lo lucas. Cuando te sientes sola me buscas, no se enamora y solo me quiere. Haciéndolo como a ti te gusta, un poco de diamante pa' que conmigo tú lo lucas. Cuando te sientes sola me buscas, no se enamora y solo me quiere.
Lo siento, mamacita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Tú eres bonita, esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Wine and stuff for me, I got what you want from me. Straight up and I'm straight talking on the ass like cake, I can't wait till I want you tonight. You know what a nigga won't do tonight, and you know what I'm going through tonight. Oh, yeah. I keep it real, you know I can never lie, though, baby. I got a lot of bitches on the yacht, though, baby. They be on top bottle, sipping Moscato. Pretty bitches deep and low, they love my bravado. Yeah, I can never ever go lie to you, baby. If I need you, know that I'ma come fly to you, baby. On a big money thing, I'm alright for you, baby. I'll make a thing for July for you, baby. So dope, let me love you right now. So dope, let me love you right now. Lo siento,
Mamacita,
esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí.
tú eres bonita,
Esta noche yo te quiero pa' mí. Yo te quiero pa' mí. Yo te quiero pa' mí.
Xcelsiors. First thing in the morning, when I wake up, thank God for life. Look in the mirror, say, bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed. Bitch, I'm the best, 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 best. Way too blessed, 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 blessed. No matter where you try, try. You could never be me, never I. Keep petting from the side. Make me take this blood clot worldwide, wide. Never had to pretend, 10. I'm a 5 times 2, that's a 10. Never ever beg friend. If they're not with me no worry about them. Whoa, blind man can see it. Whoa, so every day I repeat it. I say, first thing in the morning, when I wake up, thank God for life. Look in the mirror, say, bitch, I'm the best. Way too blessed. Bitch, I'm the best. Way too blessed.
450 on the necklace. I know you like it rough, I get reckless. The way you lick it up, you gon' make me fall in love, baby. You gon' make it hard for the next bitch. Yeah, I'm the best. That's your boyfriend, I ain't impressed. No, baby, when your body pop the top off the chest, work that body, throw your ass on the bed. Baby, what's the message in the bottle? And we lit tonight, don't worry about tomorrow. When she with me, she feel like she hit the lotto. And when I walk out, the things they gon' follow. Bitch, I'm the
best. Way too blessed. Bitch, I'm the best. Way too blessed.
Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat.